Greetings of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start, I feel I should make a confession, because it's all friends and family over here, that I play the piano professionally. And every time I would come off stage, I would be met with these gracious compliments, and everyone would say, "Oh, Gurbani, you're so talented. Oh, that was the most wonderful thing I ever heard, Gurbani." And I would so graciously accept those compliments with the utmost humility. But when I would go back home, I would often wonder, am I actually talented? Or is it just an outcome of the hours of wrong notes, bruised fingers, and public performances which frankly went quite wrong? And in hindsight, I should probably write an apology note to my teacher saying how sorry I was that I messed up. So interestingly, thinking about it now, today, after so many years of those horrible public performances, I think when everyone used the word talent, somehow my hard work, my diligence, and my sincerity got eclipsed. So the important thing is to understand that creativity probably was there within me because there was nothing magical about it. It was simply because I chose to be there again and again when the going got tough. I chose to be there even when it was boring. I chose to be there when it got frustrating. And most importantly, I chose to be there when it was difficult. Which brings me to today's thought, that we don't inherit our sparks, we choose it. So let's take a moment and ask ourselves a very important question. What does it mean to be creative? Is it something about freedom, or is it following rules? But I feel for myself that it's neither of these. For me, creativity is not about freedom. It is about disciplined imagination. It's about turning up when no one else is telling you to. So when I start playing the piano, I know I have to get it right, no matter how boring my scales are. I practice my arpeggios and scales when it gets monotonous, mundane, feels mechanical, and at times it even gets mind-numbing, but I do turn up. When I play squash and table tennis, I choose to do my drills. And when I do my debate competitions, I make it a point to do my case building, because that is what matters. And in hindsight, I think about it today, and I feel that this repetition wasn't killing my spark, it was protecting it. And sometimes it takes me back to my history classes, where I used to wonder, how many tries did Leonardo da Vinci have to fail through to make the beautiful Mona Lisa? Or how many times people like Voltaire and Rousseau failed before they could be who they were? And the Renaissance exemplified this idea. It's simple, creatio ex nihilo, which does sound like a tongue twister, but bear with me. It simply means to create something from nothing, to give meaning to something that is meaningless. And that is the pursuit of humanity. We try to find meaning. We try to attribute sense to things that are seemingly senseless for us. But even though it is so beautiful, it has led to a misunderstanding among ourselves today. It has led us to believe that creativity is a personality trait and not a process. It is something that we're endowed with. It's part of ourselves and not something we decide to do. And as a result of this, today we have two kinds of people. The painters and the poets and the writers and the sculptors, those are creative. And then on the other side, people like me, who are terrified of mathematics, scientists, engineers, accountants. So basically, two people live in this world who are creative, and then everyone like me, everyone else. But what we often tend to forget is that we believe in this, and so did I. So when I went to college, I told myself, Gurbani, no math courses, no science courses, stick to what you know. And I was doing really well, believe me. But then something changed. I decided to make a choice. And lo and behold, I take a math course in linear algebra. Oh boy, every day in class I struggled. I couldn't solve a single problem. I used to cry and weep, well, metaphorically, about my decisions. But then I realized something, that instead of focusing on what is not working, I actually have to change my focus to the things that already work. So I went back to the debater that I used to be and the munner that I used to be. And I realized something very important, that the best arguments are not made by the people who can speak the most beautiful language. It is simply made by people who can connect things the best. So when I was in math class, I came across a rather remarkable person. His name is G.H. Hardy. And he said something that changed the way of life for me. He said, mathematics is like poetry. And that was the turning point for me. Because I knew poetry. I knew poetry in its all grandeur and beauty, in its rhyme and schemes and rhythms, and most importantly, its meter. So when I started looking at math from that lens, something that was so cold and aloof started to become creative for me. Because it was simple. Proofs are like poems, where every line matters. Without the previous line, the next line doesn't make sense. Our problem solving are like verses. You have to go through it. You have to experience that. So earlier, when mathematics was like this closed room that I was stuck in, now G.H. Hardy gave me the key to look at it, very simply, because I was able to think of something that I already know and use that to enrich something that I'm trying to learn. And this idea of interconnectedness, trying to connect the seemingly disconnected, gives us a fresh perspective. And that is a kind of creativity which we should all endeavor to achieve. Speaking of the seemingly disconnected, I realized that in my field of economics, there are two remarkable people, Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo. They won the Nobel Prize in 2019. But what they won the Nobel Prize for is truly interesting. They won it for a method called randomized controlled trials, or RCTs for short. But it's not something that economists practice. It's practiced by biologists and medicine practitioners. So two very distinct fields, the natural sciences and the humanities, or the social sciences. So while the other economists were busy discussing theories and even bigger assumptions, they forgot to test and experiment. They forgot to understand what kind of effect these theories have on people who are affected and are experiencing these theories in real life. So when Abhijit Banerjee and Esther Duflo were able to connect the seemingly disconnected, economics for them became creative. Because that simplicity of ideas, taking something that is so subtle and so present in one subject, and being able to enrich that in your field of study was truly creative. And it helped us being creative. It empowered us to think simply and more elaborately. The next story I have to tell is someone very special to my heart. It's Richard Feynman. Because if we talk about simplicity, it's very important that we talk about Richard Feynman. Richard Feynman was a physicist at Caltech, one of the best of the world. But he was not famous because he thought that physics is inaccessible and complex. He was purely famous because he made physics simple for people like me. You remember, I used to dread science. I need to tell you guys a story before I move on. This was told to me by a friend who studies at Caltech and works in the same department that Feynman actually helped establish. He told me that Gurbani one day, Feynman was sitting in a cafeteria. I said, great, he's like us. We also chill in the cafeterias. And he took a plate, normal plates where we eat our food, and spun it on a table. And as a hosteler, I thought back that, wow, I am like Feynman because that's how I passed my time in college. But something different happened over there. When that plate was rotating on the table, it was not pastime. Feynman was able to understand particle interaction looking at that. Let me get this straight. He solved a problem in quantum electrothermodynamics. Phew, I can't even say that, and he helped solve it. So it was so simple. He allowed his imagination to roam and then followed it freely and seriously. So what is so simple? We have to cross a boundary that others politely respect. But it is very difficult to do that because we are often bogged down by what is expected of us or what is the conventional way of going forward. But deep down, we're all aware of this. So why do we still stick to the talent discourse? That, oh, because I'm so talented, only then things will work out. Here's a simple reason. Because it's comfortable. When we are talented, it removes responsibility from ourselves to something external. We can hide behind these excuses that, oh, I just don't have it in me. Math is really not my cup of tea. Maybe some other time. It's not for me. But when we decide that it's a choice for us, we have to own it up. We have to go out there, put ourselves out there, and work towards it. No more excuses, no more running away. So whenever we choose to tell ourselves that, I can't do this, I'm not talented, think back, sit for a moment, and just contemplate. Is it something that I have discovered about myself? Or is it something that I've just decided? Because if it is something that you've decided, then you can work towards it. You can change it. And you can make a choice to be creative. Creativity is simple. It's not a talent. It's just simple. But it is also one more thing. It's a choice. We need to have a courage in ourselves, in our decisions, and make them. Once we take the first step, crossing that boundary, that sweet spot between things that are always believed to be and the things that we can make right. And that's when we can make decisions that are not just inspired by the heart, but are motivated by our head as well. And that's when we truly believe and move towards owning our own story. Because that is what we all are at the end of the day. We're storytellers. We're trying to understand who we are and in the situation that we are placed in. And when we own up to our responsibilities, our stories, that is when we truly grow. That's when we're able to invest in our growth and create meaning. Much like our talents and creativities, they're chosen and we create them ourselves. And when we do that, that is when we're truly empowered because we are able to empower the people next to us. And that is what brings us to the end of this talk, because the true spark is not something that is given to us. It is a spark that we choose within. Thank you.